Johnny! Don't!
As one of the longest-running animated shows of all time, The Simpsons can still maintain impressive continuity. With storylines that can go on for years, the adventures of Homer Simpson and his family don't seem to age, even though the show started way back in 1989. But sometimes, the anthology episodes of The Simpsons can be a good distraction from the main story. These anthology episodes might not be connected to the show's larger continuity, but they are still memorable enough with some dreamy scenarios and a bucket load of pop culture references. Today at ScreenRant, we count down 5 of The Simpsons' best anthology episodes.
Show us what you got, TV.
Number 5, Treehouse of Horror 5. The annual Halloween specials have their own cult fan base, and no list of anthology episodes is complete without them. This particular Halloween episode features 3 unforgettable segments. The Shining, a parody of Stephen King's The Shining. Time and Punishment, where Homer time travels with disastrous results. And Nightmare Cafeteria, depicting a cannibalistic Springfield elementary. The episode's blend of horror, humor, and clever references makes it a standout. Number 4, Simpsons Bible Stories. The Bible has never felt this entertaining as The Simpsons put their own twist on the scripture. With the entire family falling asleep during a church sermon, each member reimagines themselves as a biblical character. So we find Homer posing as King Solomon, while Lisa dreams of Milhouse as Moses. Meanwhile, Bart is busy killing Goliath. Of course, none of these scenarios play out like they were written. The family's biblical misadventures make this episode a hilarious religious satire. Number 3, The Simpsons Spin-Off Showcase. This episode presents 3 fictional spin-offs. Chief Wiggum, P.I., a detective show, The Love-Matic Grandpa, a love advice sitcom, and The Simpson Family Smile Time Variety Hour, a variety show. Each segment humorously mocks different TV genres, showcasing the versatility and satirical prowess of the series. Number 2, Tales from the Public Domain. In this anthology, the family finds a book of classic literature and imagines themselves in 3 stories. Homer as Odysseus in the Odyssey, Lisa as Joan of Arc, and Bart as Hamlet. The episode's clever adaptations of these famous tales, infused with the show's signature humor, make it a memorable entry. Number 1, Simpsons Tall Tales. After winning a trip, the family encounters a hobo who tells them 3 American folklore stories. Paul Bunyan with Homer as the giant lumberjack, Lisa as Connie Appleseed promoting vegetarianism, and Barton Nelson as Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. The humorous reinterpretations of these classic tales highlight the show's creative storytelling. While The Simpsons no longer dabble in such anthology episodes, we at ScreenRant still cherish these memorable parodies in The Simpsons.
Be they the bane of the bushes or the symbol of sitcom success, The Simpsons is the longest-running animated sitcom on air. What originated as a short on the Tracy Ullman Show has ingrained itself into the very fabric of culture itself. With 33 years of cultural critique under their belts, the writers and animators have hidden their fair share of references and gags in plain sight. And for the more risque subject matters, a level of plausible deniability is required. While we will try to keep things PG enough for Maggie, if you are too young to watch Itchy and Scratchy, you may want to skip this one. Starting off rather tame, in Lisa's Substitute, we are introduced to the one-off character Mr. Bergstrom, an amazing teacher with an aptitude for academic performance. Midway through the episode, while we follow Lisa's descent into admiration, we peer into the private lives of Springfield Elementary's teachers. Miss Krabappel sitting on a desk, flirting with the new substitute, but the lessons she wants to be taught are far less than school-friendly. Her dress revealing the sultry teacher's legs and the blatant reference to The Graduate would make even Reverend Lovejoy hot under the collar. And before we move on, Dustin Hoffman went by a pseudonym in this episode, despite reciting arguably his most famous line almost word for word. Sideshow Bob's first victim was his longtime partner, Krusty the Clown. And if he had it his way, he'd take Bart out as well. In Season 3, Episode 21, his target is that of Aunt Selma. Now, murderous plots aside, did you happen to hear that joke that Krusty was saying? The joke should go like this.
Hey, this guy walks into a bar and takes out a tiny piano and a 12-inch pianist.
Krusty stops himself right there, proclaiming that he just can't tell that joke. If you didn't get the picture, he would have gone on to tell a story of magic genies and misheard wishes. A classic dirty joke to share amongst friends, but maybe not one for the general audience. But who needs a 12-inch pianist anyway, you know? Book clubs all over would be jumping for joy over this next one. What better hiding spot for toxic stoic ideas than the walls of a preschool? In Season 4, Episode 2, we are introduced to Ayn Rand's School for Tots, a horrible place where imagination is useless and help is futile. If you haven't guessed, this entire place is a joke on Ayn Rand and her philosophy of objectivism, which for the shorthand can be described as a moral stoicism that rejects determinism. For these jokes, it specifically finds the idea of imagination and subjective thought as inherently useless without the grounding of cognition. So the letter A, for example, is the letter A and nothing else. Where to begin? This episode is the raunchiest yet seen on television. Who could forget Marge's opening innuendo of "It's cold outside," or Bart's outrageous retort of "typewriter with a handgun"? Season 4, Episode 3 is filled to the brim with green meadows. If you haven't guessed, that's complete nonsense. Not to suggest that children don't like the surreal. The popularity of the steamed hams meme is nothing but an example of the surreal, but it takes a keen eye to understand a surreal reference in the background of all things. Well, in Season 4, Episode 3, we get just that. No, soap radio. A joke that's funny because there is no connection to the punchline. The listener is either in on the joke or they are not, but you cannot be an outsider and understand. Homer's shower radio is a cheeky nod to these practical jokes. A blink and you'll miss it, surreal comedy. I Love Lisa is the 15th episode of the 4th season. In it, Lisa has to deal with the ongoing affections from Ralph Wiggum. A lesson that, we should all learn, but that's not what we're here for today. No, we are here for Bart's remarks to his sister. When invited to Krusty's show, Lisa is hesitant because she obviously does not like Ralph romantically. Bart offers to take her place and will go to many lengths to keep the jig up. How far? In his own words, we do not want to know. From kissing to more, this is quite the promise, given that Bart has his own rocky relationship with Ralph. In the very next episode, we have the Duffless, in which Lisa tries to prove that Bart is dumber than a hamster. A rather innocent premise for a B story, but like many details in the beloved show, there lies a more adult reference under the surface. Lisa uses cupcakes to shock Bart. Despite the negative stimuli, he will still attempt to grab them, in a way disproving Pavlov, but the scene is eerily similar to the one in Clockwork Orange. You know the one, where Alex reaches for a pair of cupcakes himself. Be you a frog or a mouse, food and sex are supposed to feel good, yet neither Bart nor Alex can enjoy them. Do we have any Danny DeVito fans in the audience? Of course, I'm joking. It would be near sacrilegious not to cherish this larger-than-life figure. Well, Season 4, Episode 18 gives us an homage to that hit movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. See, when Homer refuses the duff, Barney smothers him with a pillow, then escapes through the glass window. Almost shot for shot, ripped from the ending of the aforementioned movie. Jack Nicholson is left almost brain dead after a horrific lobotomy and is smothered to death by, you guessed it, a pillow. An extremely dark and adult subject for such a seemingly innocent throwaway gag. Marge in Chains is the Simpsons answer to court dramas. During Apu's cross-examination, he says he doesn't forget anything, and that the 4,000th digit of pi is a 1. This joke flies right over us, unless you're more mathematically inclined. Especially because for such a small line, the writers had to contact NASA themselves to make sure that, well, the joke was accurate. See, there was no encyclopedia for the digits of pi yet, and measuring the number is notoriously difficult. And I think that just enhances the humor of the joke. The idea that it took real time and effort to pass accurate information in what really was a throwaway line is kind of mind-blowing. Plus, it would go over even the quickest mathematician's head at first viewing. This next one is sown all over culture, from Rocky Horror to Do the Right Thing. In Cape Fear, Sideshow Bob has the words love and hat on the knuckles of his fingers, a play on the popular Love and Hate. But due to the main cast only having 4 fingers, the writer had to get creative. And I can hear you asking, well, how is this an adult joke? Well, this tattoo dates all the way back to 1955. The movie The Night of the Hunter stars a not-so-loving priest with an intense hatred for the widowers that he seduces. In said film, Harry Powell, the preacher, uses the tattoos to illustrate the struggles between good and evil. If you haven't seen this thriller, oh yeah, I highly suggest it. Highbrow comedy aside, let's get higher on the list, huh? Season 8, Episode 6 introduced us to the Stoner's Pot Palace, a pottery lover's haven. Otto, the bus driver, however, was hoping for a more botanical take on the word's double meaning. This fan-favorite shop even found itself in The Simpsons Tapped Out. This isn't the last mistaken drugstore either, as the same joke is pulled on poor Otto in Season 23 with the needle exchange. A great place to get all the sewing equipment you may need, but don't feel too bad for the lovable bus driver, with the legalization of certain substances and the tolerance for those enthusiasts being more common. Oh, right! You know, he may soon find what he's looking for. A whole entire episode is dedicated to a premise taken from a very not-so-family-friendly movie, Pulp Fiction. 22 short films about Springfield have vignettes from the various residents of the beloved town, one of which is now the famous steamed hams. But scenes in the Krusty Burger and Wiggum gagged and tied to a chair are all inspired from a much more gruesome one in Pulp Fiction. But this is far from the last time the cast and crew poke a little fun at the cult classic, as in 2013 they have an episode entitled Pulpit Friction, an obvious play on the title as well as the plot of the episode. So if you checked out at the last math reference, you may want to get some coffee for this next one. The season is number 10, it's the second episode, and in it, The Simpsons seemingly disproved a long-lasting belief that x to the nth power plus y to the nth power equals z to the nth power was unsolvable. Known as Fermat's last theorem, it postulates that there is no combination of whole 4-digit numbers one can substitute for x, y, and z that will balance the equation, so long as n is greater than 2. However, if you look at the math on the blackboard of equations, you'll see 3987 to the 12th power plus 4665 to the 12th power equals 4472 to the 12th power, and it works. Sort of. See, the left side is actually Adam's whisper smaller than the right. See, close but no cigar. Earth, air, water, fire. The 4 elements lived in harmony on a poster in a hidden room in Springfield Elementary. Fans of the Avatar show rejoice in the celebration of its main theme. The 21st episode of the 22nd season gives us a little taste of the love Avatar has gained behind the scenes.
The Simpsons have been referencing Disney far before they were just another tentacle in old Walt's worldwide entertainment conglomerate. And yes, The Simpsons predicted Fox's sale to Disney decades before it actually happened. There's just a clip for everything, isn't there? So join us on a hyperspeed journey through Simpsons lore as we uncover 23 Disney references you missed in The Simpsons. And we're looking for deep cuts here, okay? The hidden times America's favorite family poke fun at the House of Mouse. I challenge you to find more interesting references. I challenge you! God, I need more coffee. Hey, speaking of uncontrollable rage, this season 13 episode sees Homer get so mad that he resembles Marvel and Disney's own Incredible Hulk, albeit with some help from some green paint. What you might have missed is Bart's nod to a longtime mystery to Hulk fans: how he keeps his pants on. We don't know. Speaking of Disney's Jolly Green Giant, nope, not that one, sorry. In this episode, Springfield's favorite comic book guy faints into a huge pile of foam Hulk hands, a toy you might remember from being in every toy store since the mid-2000s. The hands became something of a phenomenon, popping up several times in the show, usually in or around the Android's Dungeon comic shop. Unfortunately though, foam fists don't actually make you strong. I know.
Friends make you strong. I watched the same musical you did.
One Marvel strongman wasn't enough for Matt Groening's creative crew in this St. Patrick's Day episode, when a brawl between green-clad Irish Catholics and orange-wearing Irish Protestants brought out two same-colored brutes, the Incredible Hulk and Fantastic Four's The Thing. This, of course, isn't just calling out two random comic characters, but a nod to Bruce Banner and Ben Grimm's alter ego's long history of comic book battles. Okay, they fought a lot. Now, let's move on to references to another Disney heavy hitter, Mary Poppins.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Sherry Bobbins, the Simpsons version, is an obvious reference, but a fun sub-reference is a booze hound named Barney, a song the nanny sings to the kids that strongly resembles the Mary Poppins song Feed the Birds. What do you think? Would this bird-feeding old woman be offended at being compared to Barney Gumble? 2021's Treehouse of Horror special featured a clear spoof of Disney's Bambi. However, we get another instance of animators going the extra mile to land the parody. This scene where Barty, see what you did there, finds his mom is almost identical, and the appearance of Bambi's dad is the same as well, except with a slightly different ending. And the animators just generally get super granular with the details of their Disney send-ups, including Devil Flanders looking just like Chernabog, the demon from Fantasia, I had to look the name up, don't worry, a fish-faced Homer reacting just like Pinocchio when he gets donkey ears, and Phil Hartman's Lionel Hutz combing his hair with a fork. Speaking of animation references, one of the clearest might be Steamboat Itchy, which popped up in multiple Simpsons episodes as a parody of Steamboat Willie. But did you know that Steamboat Willie was actually a parody itself? Yes, the 1928 Mickey Mouse film was a send-up of Steamboat Bill Jr., a film from silent movie star Buster Keaton. So, next time you see a Disney parody, remember, they started it. Hey, speaking of Steamboat Itchy, the cartoon within a cartoon, plays an important part in a plot about the true creator of Itchy and Scratchy. In the season 7 episode, it's revealed that Roger Myers, the Simpsons version of Walt Disney, stole the character from animator Chester J. Lampwick. This is a clear reference to Ub Iwerks, the trailblazing animator and Disney's partner in the creation of Mickey Mouse, who many say didn't get the credit he deserves. It's true what they say, isn't it? Behind every American genius is an underappreciated co-conspirator with an interesting name. Everybody says that. So staying in the classic animation era, when Barney Gumble is terrorized by a hallucinogenic monster, he quickly guzzles a duff and is aided by a pink elephant which sets in stone the logic put forth in Dumbo the Flying Elephant, that drinking calls the aid of holographic pink elephants. Kids, it is important to remember this information for the test. It is half your grade. Next, a dreaming Homer finds a magic lamp, rubs it, and the genie from Aladdin comes out. Well, of course, that's obvious. But you might not know that Dan Castellaneta, the voice of Homer, actually voiced the genie in The Return of Jafar, the Aladdin animated series, and the Kingdom Hearts series. I'm sure his taxes got a lot easier after the merger. Good for him. Good for Dan. Speaking of, Disney's first family have put on many Disney couch gags, especially as the IP continues to mount. This one referencing Disney animation with Maggie as Minnie, Lisa as Cinderella, Marge as Snow White, Homer as Baloo, and Bart as Fantasia Mickey, was actually created by Disney animator Eric Goldberg, who is known for creating the Genie and other iconic Disney animated characters. Can't you see it in the style? I think that's so cool. Even Disney's litigation practices weren't safe from Simpsons scorn, as when Principal Skinner calls the school carnival the happiest place on earth, he's rebuked by a Disney lawyer. This, of course, is a nod to Disney's long and litigious history when it comes to copyright law. But you might not know that the Mouse's lawyers twice got the US government to change the intellectual property laws to keep Mickey out of the public domain. He's due to go into the public domain in 2024, so keep your eyes peeled for lawyers with Mickey Mouse ears creeping around Capitol Hill. In the 4th season, Selma takes the kids to Duff Gardens. This is the episode where they ride a Duff-themed Small World parody ride. And the fictional theme park takes a direct swipe at Snow White's diminutive friends with beer-themed versions of the iconic dwarves. The fun part? You can actually go see those mascots in person, but not at a Disney theme park. At Universal Studios. How's that for brand synergy, huh? How about it? When's Disney gonna buy Universal? The Disney theme park parodies roll on with Itchy and Scratchy Land, a place the family returns to several times through the series. The whole park is a spoof of Disneyland down to the cutting-edge animatronics. This episode actually ends with the robots going haywire and killing everyone, only to be stopped with simple flash photography. A nod to Disney's long history of impressive animatronics that do inevitably break down from time to time. When Homer thinks he's 10 and Bart takes him to Itchy and Scratchy Land, they ride a parody of the Disney ride soaring down to seeing the legs of the person above you. And that's not all. This episode was written by Judd Apatow, who is of course famous for creating man-child characters, and here literally does that with Homer, but he wrote it 25 years before the episode aired. So that job that said they would keep your resume on file, they might be telling the truth. maybe. At yet a third Disneyland parody location, literally called Disneyland, The Simpsons see a politically correct version of Pirates of the Caribbean, referencing the real-life removal of two scenes from the Disneyland ride, one of drunk pirates chasing women and another showing an auction of tied-up women. It's probably a good move. In the same episode, Lisa notes that Disney got the rights to Cosmic Wars, a Star Wars parody, as you might guess, you little genius you, and immediately folded it into their rides, including the Country Stormtrooper Jamboree, Jim Jam Bonk's Wild Ride, and Jabba the Tiki Hut. This, of course, is a direct reference to Disney rides getting Star Wars makeovers after the big acquisition in 2012. And hey, speaking of Star Wars, let's get some more Star Wars references in here. It cost Disney $4 billion, it's the least we can do. The show used Cosmic Wars from time to time when it really wanted to go in at Lucasfilm because America's parody laws dictate it, dang it. And while The Simpsons can now freely use Star Wars thanks to being under the same cozy IP umbrella, they used to have a lot of fun with the send-up, even imitating the 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special with a Cosmic Wars version. If you haven't watched the real Star Wars Holiday Special, just when you do, make sure you block off the rest of your day for recovery, because it will affect you. And in an episode where Star Wars exists, I guess, Homer saves Star Wars actor Mark Hamill from a crowd of angry Comic-Con attendees. A clear reference to the rabid fan base of properties like Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, and The Simpsons. I mean, these people are unhinged, even devoting hundreds of hours to making internet videos that feel oh god. When Bart hits it big in animation, because this is The Simpsons, and of course he did, the family meets the creators of Mixar on a Hollywood red carpet. But instead of this Pixar parody crew being as jovial as their CG cartoons, the various characters and collaborators are pretty nasty. This is a pretty direct reference to Pixar's reportedly uber-toxic work environment, which culminated in the removal of longtime head John Lasseter. And the show parodied the MCU pretty directly in the season 31 episode, which you'll note is after Disney acquired Fox in 2019, but the show still chose to do spoof characters, including Chinos, because, you know, look at his chins. But the show's producers did manage to insert some direct Marvel references, including Kevin Feige voicing the character of Chinos, as well as longtime MCU directors Joe and Anthony Russo providing voice cameos. That's fun. Chinos. Speaking of Trixie Feige, in this season 29 episode, The Simpsons attended an MCU-type superhero film. After, the kids won't let the family leave the theater until they see all the many mid- and post-credit sequences, all of the MCU. Lots of fun references here, but my personal favorite is the credit for Hawkeye's action expert, listed as none needed, a reference to Hawkeye's often tamer action work than some of his more famous avenging counterparts. Sorry, Jeremy. And you might have missed this last Easter egg if you're not one to stay around for those credits. Beginning with 2020's A Playdate with Destiny, the Simpsons shorts on Disney Plus all have a modified Gracie Films logo, replacing one of the audience members with Mickey Mouse. Maybe he's the person that woman is shushing.
Hi diddly ho, neighborinos! The Simpsons is 30 years old, and it's available on Disney Plus. So we're gonna throw it a bit of a party. This 3-decade streak of comedic greatness, accomplished in prime time no less, puts every other cartoon to shame. And since the residents of Springfield have appeared uninterrupted, outlasting even the animated adventures of some of America's favorite superheroes, let's recognize what makes these characters so extraordinary. Join ScreenRant as we go through a handful of the best times that the Simpsons characters donned masks, wore capes, assumed alter egos, and crossed paths with their doubles, all in the unpredictable town of Springfield.
I thought we were quiet riot.
It says here we're Rat.
The most famous of the Cape Crusaders, in Springfield at least, is Bartman. The Bartman was originally a dance from a 1991 episode, where Bart takes over a school play and slings rap lyrics comparing the Bart to being bad like Michael Jackson. It was very early 90s. Bart later donned a Batman-inspired costume as Bartman, with the ability to climb walls and glide through the air. He appeared in the episode 3 Men in a Comic Book when he needed to wear a costume to gain entry to a convention. Then, in Revenge is a Dish Best Served 3 Times, Bart and his parents leave the Gotham City Opera House only to be mugged by Snake Jailbird. In this parody of Bruce Wayne's backstory, Homer and Marge meet their ends. Homer's last words are, "Avenge me," in flamboyant, impractical fashion. If only we could get our own full-length Bartman movie. Guy Incognito isn't all that he appears to be. Guy looks exactly like Homer Simpson in disguise, but he isn't the real thing. Just a poor sap who's in the wrong place at the wrong time. When Guy was first introduced in the 11th episode of Season 6, Fear of Flying, he enters Moe's Tavern looking exactly like the Simpsons family patriarch, except he speaks in an over-the-top upper crust accent, wears a top hat and a suit, and has a curly mustache. Moe immediately thinks that Guy is Homer in disguise and has no patience for the ruse. Mr. Incognito gets thrown onto the doorstep, where the actual Homer Simpson passes by. Homer is confused by Guy's matching appearance, but then, in true Homer fashion, he gets distracted by a toy poodle and chases after the tiny dog. Not all of these alter egos are costume related. In the episode Large Marge, Homer tried competing with Bart's self-appointed nickname, El Bardo. Homer spray painted his own nickname onto the side of a building, El Homo. He didn't necessarily understand the connotation of the word until a Latino man, displaying some stereotypical characteristics, approached him. He commended Homer for his courage, and when Homer realized what his nickname was insinuating, he panicked. Look, Large Marge was released back in the less enlightened times of 2002. El Homo returned in the 26th season episode entitled Bart's New Friend. While Bart and Homer bond, we see Bart spray painted a wall with the text, El Bardo was here. In response, Homer tags the wall with Homo 2. Homer gets the chance to put on a superhero costume in season 15. During the episode called Simple Simpson, Chief Wiggum threatened that Homer would be arrested if he assaulted another Springfield resident. So when Rich Texan insulted Lisa at the county fair, Homer took on the alias of Pie Man. As the Pie Man, Homer could throw a pie in Rich Texan's face without Wiggum knowing who he really was. Homer, as Pie Man, went on to fight Springfield's criminals, vigilante style. When Mr. Burns got wind of Pie's secret identity, he blackmailed Homer into pieing his enemies. But Homer couldn't bring himself to pie the Dalai Lama as Mr. Burns requested. He then revealed himself and returned to a normal life. But that doesn't mean that Pie Man is gone for good. The hero later returned in The Blue and the Gray, How I Wet Your Mother, and Bart's New Friend. In the season 5 episode Cape Fear, the whole Simpson family takes on the alias of the Thompsons. This episode is a parody of the Scorsese remake of the same name, except here, the Simpsons hide out at Terror Lake as part of a witness relocation program after a recently freed Sideshow Bob sends threats to Bart. The fake surname doesn't work on Sideshow Bob though, as he'd followed them all the way to Terror Lake. Apparently, when the original cut for the episode was shorter than the usual network requirement, additions were made. For the sequence where Sideshow Bob steps on a rake a total of 9 times, he was originally only supposed to step on it once. But once the episode needed an increased runtime, the production team decided to stretch it out for laughs. Matt Groening originally opposed cheap jokes like this, but he's since warmed to this cult classic episode. We're gonna take a second to step away from all the Simpson-y goodness to just remind you to subscribe to ScreenRant. Also click that little bell thingy if you don't mind. If you're watching this on mobile, be sure to turn on your notifications in your app settings so that you can actually be notified. Every little bit helps us, and in return, you get some awesome content. Seems like a win-win to us. In the season 10 episode Homer to the Max, Homer enjoys some extra popularity when a hip character on a new TV show called Police Cops shares his name. This all goes downhill when the network forces Police Cops to make some changes, and its Homer Simpson character becomes a Gomer Pyle-style doofus. In order to escape the shame of being associated with a village idiot on TV, Springfield's Homer decides to change his name to Max Power. While Homer doesn't change all that much, his new name gets him an invite to Trent Steele's exclusive garden party, where Homer and Marge rub elbows with the rich and famous, avoid Bill Clinton's advances, and escape Lorne Michaels altogether. They then join Ed Begley Jr. in protesting the destruction of a redwood forest. While every episode of The Simpsons gets pretty weird and kinda wild, there's a certain order to the reality of Springfield. Things get really crazy every Halloween. For the annual Treehouse of Horror, when genres are parodied, characters meet gruesome demises, and nightmares come true. The 10th Treehouse of Horror features a superhero plot in which Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl must come to terms with their powers and protect Springfield. Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl, aka Bart and Lisa, gained their powers after a mishap with an X-ray machine. Chief Wiggum had been X-raying the children's bag of Halloween candy to make sure that they were safe for consumption. When his X-ray machine exploded, the beams of radiation hit Bart and Lisa, giving them the ability to, stretch and clobber. Armin Tamzarian just might be one of the most controversial alter egos in Simpsons history, not only among Springfield's residents, but also among the fanbase. In the season 9 episode, The Principal and the Pauper, it's revealed that Armin Tamzarian is Principal Skinner's real name. While younger Tamzarian was away at war, his commanding sergeant, the real Seymour Skinner, was presumed lost in battle. Tamzarian then took over Skinner's identity, moving back to Springfield and convincing the senile Agnes that he was, in fact, her son. By the end of the episode, Judge Schneider rules that no one will mention this extreme bit of backstory ever again. But the damage to the Simpsons fanbase was already done. Some diehard fans believe this plot point betrays everything we thought we knew about Skinner. And while shows like Mad Men have made these types of plot twists work, some Simpsonites believe that the show never really recovered from this blunder. The Collector is basically the comic book guy in a mask, with a large C on his chest. He's also, though, Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl's arch nemesis. First introduced in the same Treehouse of Horror episode where we met Bart and Lisa's alter egos. Here, the Collector kidnaps Lucy Lawless from a comic book convention and keeps her in his lair, along with Yasmin Bleeth, Tom Baker, and a lot of memorabilia. Don't worry though, Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl do come to the rescue. To defend himself, the Collector pulls out a double-bladed lightsaber, inspired by Darth Maul in the recently released Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. When Lucy Lawless notes that the lightsaber, now unwrapped from its package, has lost its value, the Collector jumps into a vat of lucite to end his misery. He may look exactly like Ned Flanders, but Jose Flanders is really just a relative from South America. He appears in the 7th season episode Lisa the Vegetarian, when Ned holds a family reunion. There we hear him giving his South American spin on a common Flanderism, saying "Buenos ding dong diddly dias, senor." Ned Flanders himself may seem like the ideal husband and father, but he has a darker side as well. While visiting Las Vegas, Flanders lost his self-control, went on a bender, and married a cocktail waitress. All while his poor wife Maud was at home, alive and well. While Mr. Burns might seem brittle and frail, the man still runs his company with an iron fist. In the season 24 episode Dark Knight Court, Burns is inspired to become a superhero himself. He dons a costume that looks strikingly similar to Batman, but he takes on a far more appropriate name of Fruit Batman, with Smithers as a sidekick named Kid Sourpuss. They decide to bring justice to Springfield, but their adventures end up featuring Smithers paying off people to serve as quote-unquote villains in Mr. Burns' comic book fantasy. In his first adventure, for example, Smithers paid Snake and Apu to allow Fruit Batman to stop a holdup in progress at the Quickie Mart. In one season 7 episode, we get 2 creepy blasts from the past. Bart and Lisa learn that the idea for Itchy and Scratchy was probably stolen from Chester Lampwick. The homeless Lampwick even has an old film reel for a short titled Itchy the Lucky Mouse in Manhattan Madness, which proves his point. While the Simpson siblings try to help Chester receive credit for his plagiarized ideas, their efforts get Itchy and Scratchy canceled. Bart and Lisa then have to try to save their favorite show from certain doom, but their plans are thwarted when 2 children named Lester and Eliza beat them to it. Lester and Eliza look unsettlingly similar to Bart and Lisa, and that's probably because their animated appearance is very close to how Bart and Lisa looked when The Simpsons first came on the air. This inside joke is topped off by Bart noting how strange it is that he and Lisa didn't solve the problems of the episode. It was their shifty-eyed doppelgangers who did it for them. How about Rory Bellows? You might think he's just your average longshoreman, but he is, in fact, Krusty the Clown in disguise. This all occurs in the season 7 episode Bart the Fink. Here, the Simpsons each inherit $100. Bart uses his money to pay for an autograph from Krusty. Yet when Krusty deposits Bart's payment into an illegal account in the Cayman Islands, the IRS punishes Krusty and seizes his assets. Krusty then fakes his own demise and becomes Rory Bellows. Bart and Lisa do wind up talking Krusty into returning to his former identity, and then Krusty decides to take out a large insurance policy on Bellows. That explains how he'll be able to make a bunch of cash and get away with becoming Krusty again? It all makes sense within the context of the episode. Springfield citizens have a lot of pride for the founder of their town, Jebediah Springfield. And even though we may not know exactly where Springfield is located, we do know that Jebediah headed westward in search of land to form what he believed would be New Sodom. After misinterpreting a Bible verse, he thought this would be a good thing. And while a statue commemorating Jebediah's fight with a bear displays Springfield's pride for their founder, Lisa discovered that Jebediah was actually Hans Springfield, a brutal pirate and enemy of George Washington. He even tried to bring about George Washington's demise, but the first president was able to escape Jebediah in one piece. Jebediah's confession, linking his identity to Hans, was written on a piece of a portrait of George Washington, a painting that's famously missing a portion in real life. In one of Homer's more oblivious moments, and yeah, there are a lot of them, he decides to take on the identity of Nicky Blue Pants Alto Saxophone. It's never a good idea to take on a fake name with the word phony in it, but he needs it when he goes undercover for the FBI in the season 22 episode Donnie Fatso. There he gets involved with the Springfield Mafia in The Simpsons' take on Donnie Brasco. This episode is particularly of note because it's the last time that we heard Joe Montana play classic character Fat Tony. It's also the introduction of Montana's turn as Fit Tony, who's Fat Tony's slim cousin. After Fat Tony meets his demise, Fit Tony gains weight, becoming Fit Fat Tony and ultimately the new Fat Tony. Since this other Fat Tony is voiced by the same actor and has the same name, it's almost as if we can just pretend this episode was a figment of our imaginations. In season 17's Girls Just Wanna Have Sums, Lisa dresses like a boy and experiences how the other half lives, or at least how boys get through life at Springfield Elementary. She assumes the identity of Jake Boyman, when the boys and girls of Springfield Elementary are split up. Principal Skinner made this drastic decision in reaction to criticisms over his beliefs that girls aren't cut out for mathematics. When Lisa gets fed up with her girls-only math class, which doesn't seem to actually teach her anything, she becomes Jake Boyman. Jake gets called the unflattering nickname of Toilet because the toilet paper seen stuck to his shoe and later gets beaten up by Nelson. Bart then discovers Lisa's ruse and decides to help her be a more convincing male. It's a secret that brings the siblings closer together, at least for that episode. In the season 21 episode, The Bob Next Door, Sideshow Bob returns, this time with a new face. Sideshow Bob, played by returning guest star Kelsey Grammer, has been locked away in prison all of this time. But in an elaborate scheme, Bob decides to swap faces with his cellmate, Walt Warren. Walt, voiced by Hank Azaria doing his best Jimmy Stewart impression, gets paroled. But after the surgery, Sideshow Bob is able to get out of the slammer by wearing Walt's face. The villain may look different, but we still have all the references that make Sideshow Bob episodes memorable, including highbrow nods to classic operettas and some homages to Kelsey Grammer's other work in film and TV. The season 4 finale, Krusty Gets Cancelled, puts Krusty in a tight spot. There's a new primo children's entertainer in town, and it's a ventriloquist dummy named Gabbo. Krusty struggles in the ratings, and even Itchy and Scratchy shorts move over to the wildly popular Gabbo show. Desperate, Krusty starts running a cheap knockoff of Itchy and Scratchy called Worker and Parasite. This cat and mouse cartoon originally aired in the Soviet bloc in 1959. While the cat and mouse appear to antagonize each other, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's going on in the short. After he plays it on an episode of his show, even Krusty is confused. He then notices that his studio's emptied out. Worker and Parasite may be the closest thing to Itchy and Scratchy that mid-20th century Eastern Europe has to offer, but it's not really enough to save Krusty.
Well, hi diddly-eye everyone! We recently published a video about Simpsons theories that got a lot of you guys talking. One of the more interesting theories suggested that the entire Simpsons family are in fact geniuses. When you first hear it, that might seem like a crazy statement, but we're here to convince you that it might actually be true by delving into it in a little bit more detail. So are all the Simpsons family really geniuses?
Why would they lie? What would they have to gain?
Let's take a look. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's the best way of keeping up to date with all of ScreenRant's great new videos.
Oh, Grandpa.
When you think of the Simpsons family as a collective unit, one of the last words you think of is the word genius. I mean, sure, Lisa is the exception, as she's very obviously an extremely intelligent girl, especially for her age, and she no doubt has a very bright future, potentially becoming the US president if one depicted future in the show comes to fruition. But the other members of the Simpson family are, well, let's just say they haven't really impressed too many people when it comes to their academic achievements. Homer and Bart in particular look destined to live their lives in extremely unspectacular fashion, as far as that's concerned. However, as we touched upon in the intro, there's a fan theory that suggests every single member of the Simpson family is actually a genius, but only Lisa chooses to embrace it. Let's take a look at everyone.
And, incidentally, thanks for not making fun of my genitalia.
I thought I did.
Marge. Even Marge, who obviously isn't a Simpson by blood, has been shown in numerous flashback scenes as being an excellent student in her younger days. There hasn't been an awful lot of what Marge achieved as a youngster shown on screen, but she does have a degree from Springfield University, which suggests that she could have gone on to achieve more in life. However, she ultimately chose Homer, a family and life as a housewife over a successful career. It's how she wants to live, and it's what makes her happy. For Marge, it was a very easy choice. There have been a few occasions in her adult life in which her intelligence shone through, though, such as when she became the mayor of Springfield and when she was a stand-in teacher at Springfield Elementary.
The sum of the square roots of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
Homer. The patriarch of the Simpson family is, without a doubt, a genius. If you can recall the episode Homer, spelled H-O-M-R, Homer found out he'd had a crayon lodged in his brain since childhood, and when he had it removed, he quickly accomplished all kinds of seemingly impossible things, such as proving that God doesn't exist. But he actively chose to have the crayon reinserted to avoid being ostracized by his friends, and because life was generally easier as a dumbass. It was a tougher choice for him to live like that, because unlike Marge, for Homer, happiness comes with the price of being a complete and utter moron. Heck, even with the crayon lodged in his brain, Homer has achieved and done so much. It's like the genius in him is subconsciously helping him to achieve things in stupid ways. He's been to space, he's traveled the world, and he's met several US presidents, which is far more than most people will ever do. There's even a theory that suggests the crayon's presence doesn't actually make him dumber. It merely cuts off the smart part of his brain from the part that controls his actions. Hence the occasions when he asks his brain to help him out. But he does the opposite of what it suggests, in spite of the fact it actually provided him with some very good advice.
Who called all these weird places? Quiet, it might be you, I can't remember. No, I'm gonna ask Marge. No. Why embarrass us both? Just write a check and I'll release some more endorphins.
He's also definitely richer than he lets on, as the Simpsons all live relatively comfortably, and they do seem to spend way beyond their apparent means. And that's probably because he's actually done a lot of things that earned him a lot of dough! No pun intended. Get it? Because dough it's like a word for money, and it's a catchphrase that Homer says. He must be earning royalties from his time in the B-Sharp's Barbershop Quartet, for example, and Hank Scorpio gave him the freaking Denver Broncos as a gift. To get himself into situations where he can earn the kind of cash those things would bring in must mean he's at least a little bit more intelligent than he lets on.
Here I've listened to nothing but French for the past 2 mois. Et je ne sais pas un mot. Eh? Mais je parle français maintenant. Incroyable!
Bart is, of course, a genius as well. The mischievous little scamp has shown a natural aptitude for things like music, foreign languages, and complex schemes and pranks. And he once condescendingly said to Lisa that
I am familiar with the works of Pablo Neruda.
But he chose a life of debauchery because, like his dad, he finds it easier and more satisfying. It's just that Bart figured it out at a much younger age. Heck, in one potential alternate future depicted in the show, he became Chief Justice of the United States. The boy, as Homer calls him, was even shown to be a gifted student when he was younger, but his grades slowly declined. Although the episode Lisa the Simpson would have people believe the Simpson gene is the cause of that decline, Homer's proven genius completely disproved that idea. Bart just knows that despite his father's many faults and often debilitating stupidity, he is happy. When Bart mocks Lisa for her supposed nerdiness, what he's actually doing is trying to get her to follow the same path as himself and Homer, because he knows Lisa's intelligence will ultimately lead to her having a more stressful and less happy life.
Maggie, cut that racket!
Maggie. In spite of all other available evidence, baby Maggie is arguably the greatest piece of the puzzle supporting this theory. She's far, far more intelligent than a baby should be, in spite of her inability to say a single word, which could actually be her way of choosing laziness at an even younger age than Bart. The youngest Simpson was able to plan a Great Escape-style breakout from a daycare center in order to get her pacifier back. She was able to save Homer from drowning, and she even rescued him and a group of fellow tow truck drivers from the mad tow truck driver Louie. It's not only the Simpsons who live at 742 Evergreen Terrace who are geniuses, however. Grandpa may be somewhat senile in his old age, but flashback scenes show a younger Abe doing a number of things that require a lot of skills to achieve. Abe was a fighter pilot and an accomplished pianist, for example, which suggests that his intelligence is, or at least was, way above average, and that he's very good at a wide variety of things.
Tell it to me in an anecdote.
Even in his old age, his rambling stories are quite often intelligent, complex allegories for the events that transpire in the episodes in which they occur. He's also a member of the Stonecutters, Masons, and Communists, and for some reason the
president of the Gay and Lesbian Alliance,
which suggests he's worked his way into a number of positions of authority and importance over the years.
You awful, awful man! Get out of my son's grave!
I hate to rain on your parade, lady, but this is my grave.
Mona. Finally, we come to Mona. Like Marge, although Homer's mother isn't technically a Simpson, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that even she is a genius, of sorts. Not only was she a political activist, which suggests she had a keen interest in important academic topics, she was also a very successful criminal, which included her doing things like infiltrating secure laboratories. While being a career criminal isn't anything to be proud of, the term criminal mastermind exists for a reason, and Mona must have been very good at it to do it for so long. More to the point, she must be extremely smart to have avoided the police while she was on the run for all those years, 27 to be exact. To summarize, the entire Simpsons family are definitely geniuses, but Lisa chooses to embrace her intelligence, while the others, for the most part at least, choose laziness and, in turn, happiness. It's both tragic and beautiful.
The symbol of everything fine inside us. Poor gullible Lisa.
I'm not supposed to stare at it directly, but I can't help it. If I touch it, will it heal my baldness?
The Simpsons are well known for predicting world events, sometimes with multiple predictions layered into a single moment. Today on ScreenRant, we're taking a look at a few of those predictions that came true or were wildly close in 2024. Longtime Simpsons writer and former showrunner Al Jean took to X back in July to say that he was proud to be a part of one prediction: Kamala Harris is the potential president of the United States. This one got hyper-specific thanks to Gene's choice of image comparison. Harris in a purple suit jacket and pearls that make for an eerie match to President Lisa Simpson's more Hillary Clinton-inspired look in the season 11 episode Bart to the Future, which aired in 2000. In that episode, Bart is shown the future, where he is a hopeless stoner and his sister has risen to the highest office in the land. The Harris picture Gene referred to was from the inauguration of President Joe Biden in 2021, meaning that this works as a 2-for-1 prediction, first making our heads turn during that historic event. Part of us has to wonder, though, how much of this was self-made? Was Harris intentionally riffing on Lisa Simpson on the day she officially took the role of vice president? Let us know in the comments, Miss Harris. Perhaps the most predictions that have come true from The Simpsons, at least in recent years, deal with former President Donald Trump. That Bart to the Future episode, for example, even name drops Trump as the president prior to Lisa's usurping of the office. This one might seem incredible, even for The Simpsons, but it didn't come from out of nowhere. Trump had been vocal about wanting the presidency in some form since the late 1980s, before The Simpsons was even on the air. As a major figure in pop culture, it should come as no surprise that he would be one of the celebrities in line to be the joke president prior to Lisa. Still, it's a pretty strong prediction and one that carries with it an extra edge. After all, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Trump's successor did have to deal with a severe economic downturn, much like how The Simpsons predicted, minus the whole being broke because of investing in the nation's children thing. Additionally, Trump's re-election campaign in 2024 was predicted back in season 25, although not on the show itself. This image has been widely circulated as a Simpsons prediction from 2000, but in reality it was from the Simpsons short film Trump-tastic Voyage from 2015. In the short, Homer is paid to attend Trump's famous elevator descent only to accidentally get shoved onto the escalator himself and behind Trump's famous hair, into which Homer is then shrunk and sucked into. A la The Fantastic Voyage. Within the hairscape, Homer passes a bunch of references, including Anger from Inside Out and The Apes from 2001, A Space Odyssey. Amongst all this is a sign for Trump 2012, which then cycles all the way through 2028. If The Simpsons' accuracy is any indication, it looks like we're far from through with Donald Trump's presidential attempts. In an interview with Full Measure's Cheryl Atkinson, Trump seemed to rule out the possibility. When asked if he'd run again following a 2024 loss, he said, "I think that will be it. I don't see that at all."
We're preparing to launch the first privately funded manned mission to Mars.
You're going to Mars?
Speaking of which, in the 2015 episode The Marge Ian Chronicles, Marge and Lisa nearly go to Mars as part of a private company's attempt at colonizing the Red Planet. The episode features Lisa signing herself up for the program, which is meant to take place in 10 years, when she's 18. Marge isn't too keen on the idea, and the whole family joins her in the training process. Only Marge and Lisa make it through, and the company winds up having to move up the launch date. Long long story short, the mother-daughter duo are fast-tracked through the program and ultimately wind up inside a rocket bound for Mars, only for the spacecraft to not work, thereby keeping them safely Earthbound. On September 7th, 2024, Elon Musk's company SpaceX announced that they would be launching the first uncrewed Starship mission to Mars in 2 years' time, making this prediction slightly inaccurate, but still too close to not notice.
Does that turn you on? Oh, yes, that's hot. The perfect temperature.
Another major innovation predicted by The Simpsons is the release of the Apple Vision Pro, which hit the market on February 2nd, 2024. This huge development was predicted by The Simpsons in the 2016 episode Friends and Family, in which Mr. Burns gets a VR headset and takes Homer's family as his own virtual family. Skipping to the end, we see a near future where the citizens of Springfield are stumbling around, experiencing their greatest dreams in their new VR headsets, which bear a striking resemblance to the Apple Vision Pro. Of course, by this time, several competitors had made their own attempts at VR headsets, such as the Samsung Gear and the Oculus Rift, which debuted in 2015 and 2016 respectively. As such, this is a classic example of history simply repeating itself.
Maggie, whatever.
Where did you go?
Peekaboo.
Oh, there you are. Very amusing.
In the 1992 episode, Brother, Can You Spare 2 Dimes? Homer's half-brother Herb comes up with the invention of a lifetime, a baby translator. Homer helped him out by loaning Herb $2,000, and lo and behold, the invention was a massive success. This concept would later be made sort of reality with Baby T, a product from the company Zoundream, which claims to be able to translate baby cries into what that baby is crying for. The device has yet to actually hit market, so its success is yet to be seen, but testing is currently underway. Most recently, it was announced that Zoundream's baby communication technology would be integrated into baby monitors sold by Philips Avent, suggesting that the future is here, and it was predicted way back in 1992.
Meet the future masters of the human race. Now I have cause to terminate.
This is crap.
The current AI takeover has also been predicted by The Simpsons. Recent statistics indicate that millions of jobs are and will be lost to AI. And in the 2012 episode Them, Robot, Homer's co-workers are all replaced by AI-powered robots. In the episode, the robots replace everyone except Homer. Even Mr. Smithers is thrown to the wayside, and the town of Springfield contends with a 99% unemployment rate. The robots seem to be working out pretty well too, until Homer gets mad at them for taking away his beer. He gives them all robot lobotomies, which results in them attempting to kill Homer. This inevitably leads to the sacked employees returning to save Homer and Mr. Burns, and defeating the robot menace, thereby getting their jobs back, albeit as temps. Admittedly, this is a lot different from what's going on now, but the basic premise remains the same. AI is taking over an unprecedented amount of the job market with minimal human employment to back it up. This isn't anything new. Advances in technology, especially in robotics, have been taking over jobs for decades and show no sign of slowing down. Okay, this one's a bit of a cheat, but it had to happen sooner or later. In Bart to the Future, an adult Nelson Muntz is shown via hologram. While we have had hologram tech show up from time to time, including the much parodied Tupac incident, it would seem that 2024 is a major jumping off point for the technology. Multiple companies have come out with their own versions, such as Real Fiction's DreamOck and the HoloBox by HoloConnects. None of these are the same tech as used in the episode, but they do symbolize a huge stride forward.
And impeccable behavior watching the NCAA basketball tournament.
And finally, we have to talk basketball. In the 2015 episode, Every Man's Dream, Homer and Marge end up separated, with Homer forced out of the house and into the arms of his pharmacist, Lena Dunham's Candace. Marge, meanwhile, winds up dating Candace's dad. It turns out this was all a dream, and Homer and Marge agree to give him 30 days to work on his behavior. This sequence ends with Marge complimenting him on his recent actions. On March 31st, Homer, meanwhile, is wearing a Duke University t-shirt and holding an NC State pennant flag. Turns out this is also a dream within Marge's dream. It's complicated, and also beside the point. In real life, the Duke Blue Devils played against the NC State Wolfpack men's basketball team on March 31st, 2024. The episode neglected to predict the outcome of that game, with the Wolfpack taking home the win, 76-64. Let us know in the comments what you think is the most striking prediction The Simpsons has made. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned to ScreenRant for all your Simpsons news.